Well, John may not see us, but we're there. And by that, I mean John Bagnasco. Good morning. It is Garden America. We see you. You see us if you're tuned in on Facebook Live. Also want to welcome those on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. This would be hour one for you on Biz Talk Radio. Facebook Live, we keep rolling right on through both hours here. Good morning to you, Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Beck. John still looks a little confused, Tiger.
He's still working on finding us.
Still working on finding us on his phone. And it's important because
got you right here.
Yeah, because you monitor most of the questions and comments.
Exactly. It's like most important job over there. Get us.
So he's got us. We're good.
Got a lot of people saying good morning and happy Easter.
That's right. Happy Easter weekend. By the way, we're going to the 3 o'clock service today at North Coast.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
Just get it out of the way.
We're going tonight also because they suggested that we go because Sunday is so crowded.
Well, right, but you're going to the 5 o'clock probably. Yeah, we're going to the 3 o'clock because we figure there'll be even less people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there will
at the
be.
3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Where is are you going?
Vista.
Which one are you going to?
The Vista camp, the main campus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know who's giving the sermon?
I thought it would be
Chris.
Chris.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they're not listening.
It's a 35-minute drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll be like two ships passing. We'll be leaving. You'll be arriving.
Yeah. Except we're going to Fallbrook.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Almost
anyway,
there.
happy Easter weekend to you.
And it really was a spring week here
I
in
think
San
so,
Diego.
right?
Meaning, the
Wow,
weather, the warm, the misty, the rain, and now beautiful sunny skies. I mean,
Yeah, but it was cold and misty the last few days in my house.
Yeah,
This
that's what I'm
morning
saying,
I got
like,
up and I
it's
could
been-
see my breath.
really?
Right.
That cold?
But 43.
That is freezing.
Yeah.
It was
my
49
mouth.
on the way in this morning.
People back east are saying,
Yeah,
what are you
that's
talking
shorts.
about?
43,
Shorts
that's a
and
heat
flip-flop.
wave, right?
Yeah.
But now, in all fairness, you're from Detroit, so you've been through it. You know what cold is.
It's funny, the from Detroit. How long has it been since you've lived back east, John? Like 50 years?
1977.
50, almost 50 years.
Yeah, so
exactly.
I moved out here
It's 48 years.
So,
well before you were born.
so I don't think he can claim that he knows what it's like
Well, no,
anymore.
but he grew up. I mean, he knows what cold is. But let me tell you, this is interesting that you bring that up because I went to school in Flagstaff,
Right.
Arizona, and it snows. It gets very cold. It's interesting because if I go out here and it's 45, I'm freezing.
Yeah.
But I remember going downstairs to the garage in Flagstaff to get wood, and it would be like 35, 36. It didn't seem as cold as 45 for some reason. And I'm not sure if it's because of location, because I'm in kind of the snow, and here it doesn't really snow, but it's just cold.
Yeah.
It's just weird, 45 compared to 35.
We're just underprepared here.
Well, I told you the story because it's all relative, so this goes along
Yes.
with what you're saying. When I went to Fairbanks, Alaska in January, I gave a talk at the University of Alaska.
The Royal Order of the Polar Bears.
But the woman at the hotel drove me to the airport when I was coming home, and she just puts on one of those down vests.
Yeah.
And I've got like this
Good.
parka on.
Yeah.
And I'm
Got
freezing.
those little heat pads.
Yeah, and the temperature said it was 35 below outside. And I said, that's all you're going to wear? And she goes, yeah, we're going to the car.
Yeah. It's going to be a little nippy tonight, but,
And I said, but it's freezing out there. She goes, oh, no, 50 degrees is really cold because that's when your bones freeze.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, no, I get what she's saying. Yeah.
It's all relative.
So
yeah.
it has been nice. It was we had a little rain
Yeah.
a couple of nights ago.
Yeah. Well, that's why I picked out the quote this week, because the quote was about March, but we had March, at least California March weather this last week.
Yeah, we did.
And in one of his books, Charles Dickens had written, it was one of those March days when the sun shines hot and the wind blows cold, when it's summer in the light and winter in the shade.
Did you see how he slipped that quote in this week?
I love it.
He just kind of went right. Great segue.
Right out. He followed our script.
Wow.
These,
That was good.
These pre-show meetings
You'll
are
need
doing
now,
wonders.
as per our meeting, you'll need to read that again later on for those that join us later on in the program.
Per our meeting.
Per our meeting this morning.
I like our buddy Hastam in Pakistan wishes us good morning, even though the moon's probably shining where he is.
Yeah. That's right. A lot of people on different time zones around the world. So welcome. We hope you had a good week. Happy Easter weekend. We are back. We have a guest today. It's not just going to be us pontificating, Tiger, right?
Correct. We're going to have Andrew Bunting, the Vice President of Horticulture, over there at the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society.
Pennsylvania? Did I read Philadelphia? It's Pennsylvania, right?
It is.
I read, somehow in my mind, I read Philadelphia.
I just wanted to mention that Mario from New Hampshire says good morning.
Oh, good morning.
We don't hear enough from New Hampshire, Mario. Thank you for representing New Hampshire.
Hampshire is fine, but it's
the new one.
It's the
new
one.
one that we appreciate.
Yeah.
Carla, by the way, says good morning to everyone, and she says, and yes, a blessed Easter to all of you. May it be more than bunnies, eggs, and chocolates to you.
Oh, absolutely.
If it wasn't for Easter, Easter's the only reason we celebrate Christmas.
That's right, exactly, right? They kind of go together, if you know what I mean. So I sent John a couple of pictures, roses. You saw Lemon
Laura
Spice
Bush.
and Laura Bush.
Oh, did you send me lemon spice too? I thought that was an old photo.
No, I took them. Everything's starting to bloom now, so
Oh.
I get all proud of my roses. I want to show them to John.
I had already had the newsletter done, and we had
I know.
pictures in, but I saved it. So
Maybe, yeah. When we're short of pictures.
I thought the lemon spice looked especially good.
Thank you. I like to get an attaboy from John.
Is this shocking to you, John? I was at a customer's house in Murrieta, okay? And they had, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 roses in the backyard. Every one of them fully leafed out, fully beautiful, full in bloom.
No, that's what they should be.
Right now, I felt like it was early, but you think you're there? They were perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on when you prune, also.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If they're pruning correctly, if they pruned earlier,
Right. Like
into
the
the
ones I pruned last week are still not blooming.
yeah. And I didn't
even leafed
I didn't
out yet.
prune till January, maybe early February.
Yeah. I was just so impressed. I was just,
Yeah.
and the reason why I say Murrieta too is because they get colder there. Like
They get cold, but they also get heat.
get warm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
on the coast where you are, you get a lot more overcast days.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
By the way, we still get our high surf warnings from Alexa in Scripps Ranch. There's a high surf advisory, and you can't question her. Like, hey, Alexa, we don't live near the coast. Why are you giving us?
Be quiet, Brian. Yes,
No,
you
it's
do.
like, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. That's a cop out. What else?
Brian has a new friend that he likes to talk to on his phone.
my
too.
co-pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
I like him.
Yeah.
We're buddies. Just because of the Wi-Fi here, he's having a hard time getting through.
What did he say to you? What's up?
He goes, what do you want?
Is that what he said? What do you want?
What can I do for you? Oh, gee, I'm sorry I disturbed you. Yeah. Were you having breakfast? Hey, we should mention, too, the cartoon on our Facebook page.
Love it.
John has become a one-panel syndicated cartoonist.
I love it.
Or so it appears.
Funny.
And he syndicates with us.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave Garden America. That was good. And I love your program. Tiger looks more like Tiger than Tiger does. And that's very good.
It's been hard to. You came out. You make a perfect cartoon character.
I don't like my nose though. I don't have a nose like that. I've got an old man nose.
It's a caricature.
It's
I know,
supposed to have funny things.
Yeah, I guess. But
I'm surprised that you still complain about being an old man in anything. That's what you are.
Yeah.
No. It's all up here. It's all up here.
No,
you did a good job. It's now. Do you have one for next week ready? Do we need to discuss?
No, but if you've got any ideas, just send them to me. I can use almost any idea and make a cartoon.
This is good because if I can send it to him without him being in the room, I won't see the eye roll if he doesn't like my idea.
Yeah, you just don't see it.
I just
you
want
just
to hear
don't ever
from him.
see it. You just don't ever see it published.
I want.
Exactly.
Do you remember I sent you a list of, you had asked for ideas when you were trying to do some cartoons. And so right now I'm working off that list.
That I sent you?
No, the one that I sent you.
That you sent you.
Yeah, I think it was last year sometime.
I think it was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah. Now, most of mine were not garden related, but we could fix that.
Yeah.
We could
There
do
were some good concepts in there.
Yeah, the ones I sent you were all garden related, though.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, that's another direction we're going. If anybody have any ideas, let us know.
You
You
know,
know, what's
and
funny to you?
that is the funny thing about gardening as well. We talk about just the real life experiences, and you have to poke fun at yourself, right? When you're gardening, you have to. That's the only way to really enjoy it.
Or
If you
the roses will poke you.
There you go. See, because that's the only way to really enjoy it. You're going to have failures. You're going to have success. It's just a matter of, being able to embrace the idea of it. I get so, I don't know, not upset, but when customers come in and they get so frustrated that they were not successful and there's no real reason besides they just weren't successful.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
It's life. Life in the garden. We didn't mention the earthquake at all, did we?
No, no, but Carla in Huntington Beach wanted to know if we felt it.
We can quickly address that. We need to take a break. Biz Talk Radio Facebook Live. Welcome to Garden America. Back after these messages for our good friends and our great sponsors, including Fertilome on Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. All righty. Hope you had a good break. Welcome back to the show. The really big shoe here. This is Garden America. We're having a good time. I'm Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox. The three of us, well, two of us felt the earthquake last week. Tiger did not. Tiger was driving, John.
I'm trying to think. It was 6.7, right? Around there?
I know it was above 6.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty strong
that's
for
decent.
an earthquake. Yeah, Paula mentions that it was long and loud in Fallbrook. And I was just telling Tiger it was definitely loud. It was like a semi drove into my house. But I didn't think it was long. Because I got the note on my phone to take cover. Well, it was over by the time I got there.
Interesting you bring that up. I have an earthquake app, and it'll tell me like whenever there's an earthquake someplace.
Yeah.
Usually
there's a lot of them too, right?
But this was so close that my phone went off an alarm.
Yeah.
And it said, earthquake, duck. And I'm like, what? Then it hit.
Oh, really?
It hit probably a second and a half after I got the notification. Because I'm thinking, what's this for? And then boom, I said, this is a pretty good app. I like
Yeah,
this
because
app.
Siri told me after it was over.
No, I got
It's
it before.
What good is that?
Yeah.
Paula's mentioning 5.2. That was the initial,
Yeah.
but they upgraded it later
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
with that business out of the way, it is time to bring on Andrew. And anybody on Facebook Live, of course, questions, comments, we'll roll into that, so feel free. And Tiger, let's see what's happening with Andrew.
Yeah, so Andrew Bunting is joining us this morning. He's the Vice President of Horticulture there at the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, Hort Society. Andrew joins us. He's got he got a Bachelor in Science in Plant and Soil Science from the Southern Illinois University. And you guys don't have too many earthquakes over there back east, do you, Andrew? Morning, Andrew.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Uh-oh.
There we go. You with us?
You just because you hit one button, then the other doesn't mean you did it right, Brian.
You know what? Keep talking. I can kind of hear him.
Oh, okay.
So
He might be low or
yeah,
something.
stand by.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Andrew's joining us now from the Pennsylvania Horse Society. That's the home of the Andrew, are you joining us now?
Yeah, he's there. Andrew.
I can't hear you.
There we
okay,
go.
perfect.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, we can hear Andrew now.
Yeah.
Now he can't hear us.
I can hear both of you talk.
Okay, I'm Brian. I'm with Tiger and John. How's that sound?
Yeah, I can barely hear you, Brian.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me, Andrew? This is Tiger.
Yeah, a little better, but still kind of faint.
Oh, okay. We'll try to work on that on our end, on
Yeah.
Brian's end of trying to get the audio up. Andrew, thank you for joining us this morning. I was just saying, you guys don't have too many earthquakes back east, do you?
We occasionally have a little rumble, but nothing like the West Coast.
Yeah, so you guys don't worry about it as much as we do. But we were just talking, and I hope I don't have anything happen anytime soon. But I really haven't felt an earthquake since I was a kid. Every time there's been one, I've been doing something that therefore I haven't felt it. Like this time I was driving and I didn't really feel it, or I didn't feel it at all, I should say. So it's been a while since I've been in a room and then scared from an earthquake. It's just, we'll see what happens.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Something will happen.
Well, Tiger thought there was an earthquake when he was walking in the forest, but turned out they were just quaking aspen.
John.
Okay,
All right.
Okay, I'm sure Andrew's saying, "Are we going to get on with this interview? What are we doing here?"
So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about the Pennsylvania Hort Society and your guys' history and a little bit about the background of it.
Sure. So we're almost 200 years old. We were founded in 1827, so 2027 will be 200 years old. And we've been lots of different things over the last 200 years. But probably one thing that's remained constant is we also produce the Philadelphia Flower Show, which was started in 1829, just 2 years after the starting of the society. And back then, it was often a place where new plants were showcased, like the first poinsettia ever that came to market was showcased at the 1829 flower show.
Wow.
Today, the Hort Society does many things. Our mission is to advance the health and well-being in the Philadelphia region through horticulture, and we do that through 4 impact priorities, which are creating healthy living environments, increasing access to fresh food, expanding economic opportunity, and building meaningful social connections. And we do that through kind of 3 major programmatic arms. We maintain about 22 public gardens and landscapes throughout the city and 1 in the suburbs. We have a big program, street trees, community gardens, cleaning and greening of vacant lots, and workforce development. And then the third programmatic arm is the flower show. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a robust members program. So we have members of the society, and we offer them tours and trips and lectures, and we produce a magazine 4 times a year. So that's kind of what PHS is today.
This concept of the maintaining and keeping up of gardens in the community is just so important. People don't realize it. There was a study done a while ago, and I'm sure it's nothing new to the people listening, but it just really puts some factual information and stats to a concept that we all know but don't always realize. And it's just the idea that when you are in an area with, green space, with actual, beautiful plants and landscapes, your whole being is better. And the way they did this research was by, school campuses. And, they took a school campus and they made it, very bland and, a lot of fences, a lot of asphalt. And they started seeing the students and how they learned and how they responded in the classroom and, just their overall well-being. And then they took, a group of kids and they put them on a beautiful campus where, they went outside and they learned under trees and they had grass and they had flowers around them. And those kids responded much better. And, so people don't realize the importance of maintaining those green spaces around our communities because it helps the people that live there. Right, Andrew?
Yeah, that's right. We, in fact, I mentioned our cleaning and greening of vacant lots. So we have a program that we do with the city of Philadelphia, and we identify kind of blighted, kind of condemned properties. They may have a existing house or a house that's falling in, or the property's covered in trash. So we clean and green those, so remove the rubble, grade the site, sow grass seed, maybe plant a few trees, put a little fence around it. And so these clean and green lots are all over the city. There's 13,000 in total. So we've worked with a scientist, Dr. Eugenia South, and she's at the University of Pennsylvania. So she's taken kind of where these green lots are throughout the city and studied their impact on a variety of things, including community prosperity, crime and violence, and mental and physical health. And just some of her stats include, so one was study participants living near green lots experienced 41% decrease in...
Hey, sorry, Andrew, to cut you off. We do have to pause for a commercial break. I didn't want to cut you off, but we'll get right back to that idea.
A break for Biz Talk Radio, coming back quicker for Facebook Live. Do stay with us. Andrew's our guest this morning. I'm Brian Main. Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco here. Thank you for joining us on Garden America. All right, welcome back as we continue here on Garden America with Andrew Bunting. And apologize for cutting you off, but have to pay some bills with our sponsors. Tiger, go right ahead.
Yeah, Andrew, you were just talking about the program where you guys actually take vacant spaces and beautify them with the use of green, some plantings, grass, or just something that's going to be better than just rubble and debris. And you guys actually have a scientist doing research on the impact of the surrounding community. Is that right?
Yeah. And so just some interesting stats. So the study participants living near the green lots experienced 41% decrease in feelings of depression and 62% reduction of self-reported poor mental health. And then she also, what's really interesting is she looked at crime data. So this analysis that was done over a 38-month study period. And so what she found is participants living near treated vacant lots reported significantly reduced perceptions of crime by 37%, vandalism by almost 40%, and safety concerns when going outside their homes by almost 60%. Wow. 75% of the participants report significantly increased use of outside spaces for relaxing and socializing. There was a 13% reduction in crime overall and a 29% reduction in gun violence. So, as you mentioned, a green space can do a lot of things for a lot of people, but there's good science to show that it, especially in an urban area, how it impacts mental health as well as reduction in crime. And we all know that just, being in a green space or near a green space or gardening, what that does to us both mentally and physically.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, but that stuff isn't cheap, from the idea of, having to go in there, remove the rubble, do the planting. And then, I'm sure you guys are good stewards in the way of, down the road. I mean, I'm sure the plants that you choose are going to be something that are going to impact the area in a good environmental way / not be high in maintenance. But is your guys' biggest fundraiser of the year the Philadelphia Flower Show?
It's part of it, yes. Uh-huh. I would say there's, we do a variety of different ways to raise funds for the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, one of them being the Philadelphia Flower Show. We also get funds from the city of Philadelphia to support cleaning and greening of vacant lots in our workforce development program. We also have a members program, so we get funding from them. We get a lot of different grants from, local, city, family foundations, some state sources as well. So it's, I would say there's many pieces to the kind of the funding pie that goes together to, bring in revenue and funding sources for us each and every year.
Now, one of our listeners asks, is there a YouTube channel or, for the Philadelphia Flower Show, is there a way to kind of check it out online? And I'm sure you guys have a lot of resources, because that's one of the other great things you guys do is share so much information via your website, whether it is tutorials, whether it's information, new plants, so if somebody did want to find out more information specifically about the flower show, they'd probably just visit your website, right?
Yeah. If you go to phsonline.org, you'll see many tabs. Flower show is there. There's a whole tab on kind of gardeners information, becoming a member, of course, volunteering. We have almost 4,000 volunteers, many of which do volunteer at the flower show. And even if you're not in the area, there are some opportunities to volunteer remotely. We use a lot of volunteers for tree planting. We just did a big tree planting last weekend, and we'll do another big one in the fall because we plant bare root trees. We have a huge community garden program, so there's lots of ways for people to get information, but also to get involved.
Speaking of trees, your first book that you wrote, or at least that's what it says online, was a guide to magnolia trees. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No. So a lot of people just think the magnolia is white flower. Southern magnolias, giant trees, but there's a lot of varieties, and people don't even have an idea of the deciduous varieties, pink flowers, different shapes, different styles, right?
Yeah, it's a big genus. Yeah, most people are aware of, say, the saucer magnolia that blooms in the spring with white or pink flowers, or as you mentioned, the southern magnolia with large, shiny, glossy leaves and blooms in the late spring or summer. But there's many species, hundreds of selections, if not thousands. And some are evergreen, some are small, some are big. Most do bloom in the spring, but some bloom sporadically throughout the growing season. There's 7 species that are native east of the Mississippi. I would say most species are native to, say, southeastern Asia, but there's a lot of species in Mexico, Central America, northern South America, parts of the Caribbean. So it's a group of plants that probably, most people only know a handful of species and cultivars.
Yeah. Do you kind of have a favorite grouping over in that tree genus, or do you just kind of like them all?
I would say I do like some of our eastern natives because they have big leaves, almost kind of have a tropical look. Mm-hmm. I do like the early spring flowering ones, the star magnolia, Liebner magnolia, Anise magnolia, saucer magnolia. Those are all like classic spring flowering trees. A lot of people call the magnolias the queen of the flowering trees, and what's nice about magnolias is they bloom heavily every year.
Yeah.
They don't skip a year. Some years maybe they come out too early and get frosted. That's always a risk they run, but it's there's many colors. There's pinks and whites and purples and magentas, and some that border on red, and there's a whole group of the yellow magnolias. I like those. That's a group that I like, and they tend to bloom later, so they don't really run the risk of getting frosted.
I just lost a magnolia last week.
No.
To a gopher.
Oh,
it was one of the New Zealand hybrids. Are they hardy in areas of Pennsylvania by any chance?
They're better on the West Coast. A lot of those New Zealand hybrids have a species called Campbellii, which is native to the foothills of the Himalayan mountains, and that particular species doesn't like our heat and humidity. So you tend to see those New Zealand types more like, Southern California, Northern California, the Pacific Northwest, but not so much on the East Coast. Just too hot and humid in general.
Some of them have amazingly large flowers.
Oh,
that's from the Campbellii parent. If you Google Magnolia Campbellii, some have flowers that are 12 or 14 inches across.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, in those southern magnolias too, it's kind of like when you go to Hawaii and you see the pothos growing.
Yeah, they're huge,
and it's got the leaf the size of a 6-foot person.
Yeah.
When you go back east and you see this magnolia tree, and it's the size of our ficus trees that we see here, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're just massive, massive trees. It's so impressive. But, over here we tend to like the magnolia little gem because everybody wants the magnolia, but they don't want the size tree in their yard. Yeah.
And that's a good one. That's a selection of the southern magnolia that's more diminutive in size.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you go to, say, anywhere from like Washington, D.C. south, you'll see southern magnolias that tower over 100 feet tall. They're, they're ubiquitous and massive landscape trees.
Yeah, and they flower, like you're saying, and it's so impressive because to see a tree that size with that flowering capability as well is pretty impressive. Hey, Andrew, we are going to take another break. When we get back from the break, we'll continue chatting with Andrew Bunting from the Pennsylvania Hort Society.
Yep, and those questions, comments right there on our Facebook page. So we are going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. Our guest is Andrew Bunting. We are Garden America, back after these messages for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. We are back from that break here, Biz Talk Radio Facebook Live. And if you are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, this would be the final segment of hour number one. News coming up top of the hour. We come back at 6 after. Hopefully you can hear at least one or both hours on Biz Talk Radio. Tiger?
Yeah, so we're chatting with Andrew Bunting from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society this morning, and we were talking about the Philadelphia Flower Show, which is something that you guys put on, which the 2025 one just passed. Am I correct, Andrew?
Yeah. We hold it every year. It's usually like the first week of March, maybe the last few days of February. For us, it's kind of the kickoff of spring and on the East Coast.
And along with that, you guys kind of release some of your new plant, your best of, or the hot new plants that you guys are promoting. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have that list? Do you kind of know some of those plants that you guys were sharing?
Yeah, I have them here. So it's obviously there's so many new plants that come out every year. One of the things I do as part of my job is I try to go to trade shows around the country, and I can't hit them all, but I kick off the year and go to one in Baltimore, and then I usually go to one in Columbus, Ohio, and then I might take in a couple others. I also try to visit nurseries and see what's new, and there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of new plants every year. So it's a little hard to narrow it down. So I just picked a couple shrubs and trees. So, one plant that's had an amazing renaissance in the last 20 years are the hydrangeas. And it really started probably about 20 years ago. Martha Stewart had a bouquet of hydrangeas on the cover of her magazine, Martha Stewart Living, and ever since then, there's been a global fixation on hydrangeas. So one of the ones I picked is there's a species of hydrangea paniculata, which blooms on new wood, which means if you prune it hard during the winter and it sends out new stems, it'll still bloom that season. So there's a number of diminutive ones, and one is called Dragon Baby. There's many other smaller ones. Another one that I like that's kind of small like that is Little Lime or Bobo. And what's nice about them, a regular hydrangea paniculata can get 20 feet tall, but these smaller ones are only like 2 to 3 to 4 feet. So they're nice for maybe a city dweller that doesn't have a lot of space. And then I also recommended a couple trees because trees tend to not be as promoted as, say, perennials or shrubs. So, we're in the business of finding good street trees. And one street tree we use a lot of that's incredibly adaptable, I suspect that we grow almost in any state in the United States, and it's called the Kentucky coffee tree. And it's kind of a gangly tree. It takes several years before it gets kind of nice form and architecture, but there's a new one out called Skinny Latte, a good name for a Kentucky coffee tree. And it's more upright in stature. So, one of the problems with street trees sometimes is they can be too broad spreading and then ultimately maybe get pruned by the utility companies. This one's a bit more upright in its stature. What's nice about the Kentucky coffee trees is they can take good soil, wet soil. They can take really cold conditions. It's a street tree that's popular all throughout the Midwest. It seems to be pH indifferent, so it can take an acidic or an alkaline soil. So Skinny Latte is kind of a new selection of the Kentucky coffee tree.
Oh, that's fun. What a fun name. I'm looking it up right now, and they are very tall, upright trees. And I think I've got a picture up, and it's got kind of a pink flower.
Yeah, kind of whitish pink. It's really grown more for its durability than I would say its flowers. And also, Skinny Latte is a male selection. The females are a little problematic in that they produce a big pod. It can be messy. Because they're in the bean family.
Okay. Yeah, that is sometimes the trouble with trees is the mess that it could create after a bloom or after the seed cycle and stuff like that. But so you're saying that these ones are all male, like when they're bred like this? Yep. What is the other tree here that they do that? Is it ginkgo, John? That they only breed like the males because they're
ginkgos, they plant male selections because of the fruit on the females when they rot.
Yeah.
Those are, if you get a female ginkgo, they can be quite messy and smelly. Ginkgos, though, are one of the most durable of all the street trees. Even though they're not native and maybe don't have as much ecological functions as some of the other trees, it is such a durable tree, and you can really grow them almost anywhere. I'd probably say ginkgo's planted in more cities around the world than any other tree.
Really?
And a lot of different forms on ginkgos, too, just like you're talking about this fastigiate form of the gymnocladus. There's been a lot of breeding with ginkgos and selections on ginkgo trees also.
Yeah, there's one called Princeton Century that's more upright.
Right.
There's some little dwarf ones, for like a rock garden as well. Some that don't get more than a couple feet tall.
There's one that has, is it tubiformis, that has curled leaves.
Oh, fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some that have variegated leaves. Now, for a plant that's just one species, it actually has quite a few different variants.
Yeah, I was shocked when I was at the Chelsea Flower Show and saw a booth that just had ginkgo varieties. That was it.
Yeah, a whole booth. You figure it out. Like, hey, Andrew, we are going to have to take another break right now. When we get back, we'll wrap up chatting with Andrew Bunting and the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society.
Yep, stay with us. We've got, like I say, news coming up top of the hour for Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Do stay with us. We'll come back, as Tiger mentioned, wrap things up with Andrew Bunting after news and some of these messages on Biz Talk Radio. And a big thank you to our sponsor, major sponsor, Fertilome, here on Garden America. All right, how about that? Facebook Live. We are back very quickly. Those on Biz Talk Radio just joining us, welcome. This would be hour number 2 for our friends on Biz Talk Radio here on Garden America as we wrap things up with Andrew, Tiger.
Yeah, so Andrew, I wanted to wrap up because you are the Vice President of Horticulture and leads the utilization of planting and design to promote environmentally sound gardening there at the PHS. In California here, a lot of us have moved to this kind of native plant gardening, I think mostly because of water. We're always trying to conserve water here in California. And I'm wondering back there, do you guys try to, focus on the native plant selection too, or just like what you said here? In your discussion prior, where it's just more the right plant for the right place, back east. Because if you guys plant, like you say, that large tree and it gets up into the power lines, it's going to become more problematic than if you plant a native tree and it gets into the power lines. Do you guys focus on the natives there? Is my basic question.
Yeah. I would say yes, to some degree. I would say we don't exclusively promote native plants, I would say for us, especially in the city, it needs to first and foremost be urban tough and resilient. And that could be a native, could be a non-native. We do want to promote plants that have ecological functions, so those often are native plants. So they're plants that support pollinators or support food sources for native songbirds or whatever the case might be. So I would say in a lot of lecturing and writing and interviews and podcasts that I do talk about native plants. I have entire PowerPoint presentations on native plants, but I don't only talk about native plants. I think a home garden that has a lot of natives and some non-natives as well can be a place that supports good biodiversity. So, we also talk about, a few years ago, we created these kind of gardening for the greater good principles, and they're pretty simple. One is to celebrate gardening, just love gardening, choosing plants with intention, so choosing, pollinator plants, buy local, maybe use tools that are electric, see your garden as part of the ecosystem. So again, maybe having ecologically beneficial plants in your garden, use organic fertilizers versus synthetics, compost, figure out ways to mitigate stormwater runoff on your property. And then also, and this is kind of the thread through all of PHS, embrace a sharing mindset. So that might be sharing your knowledge. It might be getting involved in volunteering. It might be, producing a lot of produce in your garden and then sharing it with your neighbors or with a food kitchen or a food bank, or maybe getting involved in a community garden. So those are kind of four principles that underpin the work that we do, and we try to, in all the work we do, kind of uplift these principles of gardening for the greater good.
Yeah, really good information. Like you said before, all this information is actually shared online by phsonline.org, where you can go to find all the videos, the tutorials, where you guys are doing talks, and how people can get involved. So if you get a chance, check out their website and, get involved. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Have a great rest of the weekend, and happy Easter.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
All righty.
He was talking about that last concept of sharing, and I was just thinking, he's talking about growing plants and sharing crops, and I'm like thinking, or you could grow thousands of roses and then begin to share them all over the world.
Right?
John has the most sharing garden ever.
Sharing plants would be at the top of the list of my sharing.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
man.
we've got an auction coming up too.
Yeah.
I'll have to let people know when all the plants are posted. Right now, I think almost everyone is up there. You can't bid yet, but if you go to ccrs.com, you can see the plants that are going to be offered. And
start saving your pennies for the ones.
Yeah, there'll be some really good deals. There's also some roses on there that there may be two of that rose in the country, and one of them will be in the auction. Of course, the other one will be at my house.
Yeah. Now, those people that get the sneak preview, want to see what's happening, is there any way for them to know that this particular rose might be what you're talking about? Like, there's only two in the country. I'm gonna bid on this one.
One of our members is posting things on Instagram. So if you go to...
So then you would know.
Yeah, if you go to California Coastal Rose, you'll see that. But also, the link takes you to help me find roses if you're clicking on a rose variety. And that will tell you a little bit. If you go to gardens, when you click on that rose variety, it'll show you how many gardens it's actually in. Yeah.
Okay.
So, also an easy way to tell if you're online is look at the price.
Right. And then it's interesting because
Usually, not always, but usually the higher the price,
Sure.
the rarer the rose.
and then when we're involved in the auction and you see like a lot of people bidding on a certain rose and the price keeps going up and up and up,
Yeah.
they know something that maybe somebody else doesn't know.
Yeah.
Why are they all bidding on that
They
rose?
know.
Now, this
they have
auction
insight.
is online only.
Yeah, right.
So people all over the country can bid. We ship all over
But
the
you
country
can't talk. If you say anything, then you're disqualified, right?
because it's online only. What do
It's
you?
silent. It's a silent auction. You can't talk.
Oh,
It's completely it's quiet. Silent.
there's so many things running through my head right now.
I know. I
and
like to do that to you. Hey, I think let's see. Veronica's got a question.
On her magnolia.
Yes.
She says for the dwarf magnolia tiger, do the roots go straight down or spread? There are no trees that have roots that go straight down.
Palm trees.
And
No, just kidding.
the reason is that there's no oxygen down there, so trees can't live if their roots only went straight down. Now, some trees have a tap root to anchor the tree, and that main tap root will go down, but they still have the side.
But that
roots.
tap root's not necessarily bringing the nutrients, right? Like the other roots are, or not?
It's more for anchoring. It's the side roots that'll bring in the
Okay.
nutrients. Yeah. So on a dwarf magnolia, I guess the question Veronica might really want to know is, are the roots going to be is damaging to walkways tiger is like maybe a regular size southern magnolia.
And with
Maybe
that,
something like Little Gem.
Yeah,
with
right,
that,
right.
I kind of, it depends on how they're watered in the surrounding area. People think that, these root systems are just out there to attack sidewalks and roads and pipes and sewer drains. And, roots are doing what they're designed to do. They're finding water and
Going-
nutrients.
yeah, right, exactly.
That's so if that means there's a leaky pipe or a crack in a sidewalk where water falls into and then stays after a rainfall or irrigation, yes, the root's going to find it. It's going to expose that weakness.
And it's going to keep using it until it's dried up.
Exactly.
If it does dry up at all.
But some
So-
trees have roots like ficus.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to just tear up your sidewalk no matter what, just out of spite.
yeah, that's fine.
Just-
Exactly.
but-
They're very angry.
But what I'm getting at too is if you properly water your trees by putting a water system, at the drip line, soaking it, then it doesn't give the roots the reason
just gonna say that, to go
go
elsewhere.
and go elsewhere, and it'll keep them in check. Also using proper things like root barriers, which are something as simple as like a plastic barrier about 20 to 24 inches down against a sidewalk or curb will prevent the roots from crossing over, because then they have to go 24 inches down before they can go over, which will protect your sidewalk, your curb, your maybe your planter or anything of that sort. So that's just good tree etiquette. But I think it really just comes down to starting it with the watering. I mean, the worst watering you can do is just very shallow watering, because then the roots, never really go down and they're just always looking for water.
Right.
And so you got to watch out with that.
Okay, break time here on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live for Garden America. Back after these messages. Do stay with us. We'll keep monitoring the comment section on Facebook Live to answer your questions and share your comments here on Garden America. Stay with us. Okay, we are back. Hey, speaking of ficuses, or the ficus plant, I wanted to let you guys in on something. A couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago, I mentioned that I had transplanted a ficus that Dana had. And it did all what I thought were the necessary things. After about a week or two, and it's outside, it looked terrible. The leaves were yellow. It was dropping its leaves, and I'm thinking maybe transplant shock. It wasn't happy. So I took it. I put it underneath by the front door, which is covered. I gave it some fertilizer, some HB 101, and I'm waiting to see more leaves drop. Only a couple of 2 or 3 leaves might have dropped. It now has green leaves. It's starting to look really, really good. It's happy. I think it's happy where it is, and I think the HB 101 and the fertilizer obviously is helping. But would you agree that might have been transplant shock for a ficus?
No.
What do you think
It
caused
could have been. It could have been, but more likely it's just, it's the cuticle, right? We've talked about that so many times that if you moved it from indoors to outdoors, it would lose every leaf, but all the new ones that came out would be fine.
But it had been outdoors the whole time. I just transplanted it.
Oh, if that... Well,
Yeah. So it was out. It was
how
out.
could it be shocked? What did you do? Separate the roots or take anything away from the roots?
I shook it vigorously and yelled at it.
Oh. Well,
Well, no. See, I don't know because it had always been outside. I put it in a bigger pot.
that shouldn't...
It shouldn't have, but it looked terrible. And now it's looking good. I moved it under. I'm not going to move it now because it's got new leaves,
Yeah.
green leaves, and
No, if you like where it is, just leave it
it's
there.
not if I like it. If the ficus likes it, because I liked it where
You're
it
so
was.
accommodating to plants.
So anyway, that's my ficus story. But they are known to be a little temperamental, right? Ficus to a degree.
I don't think so.
No, my experience. If you
Just understanding their needs.
if you
Everybody's a little
say the wrong
temperamental.
thing, it just
Yeah.
loses about 10 or 15 leaves.
When we were, I think it was Veronica, we were answering her question on the Magnolias or
Right.
Whoever it was. But also, those are southern magnolias, evergreen magnolias. I don't think you have the same problem with deciduous magnolias.
No.
They've got
Yeah.
more fibrous root systems and
They tend to be more compact too. The tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the trees are smaller. The New Zealand hybrids, the trees are a little bit bigger, unless a gopher eats them. The one that the gopher ate was Felix. Do you know that one?
I feel
You name your gophers?
No, this is the tree.
Yeah.
Man, I remember when you got those and you
Yeah.
were so excited,
Yeah.
and I
They
feel
were
that-
expensive,
that
too.
name. I what did it look like? I can't remember.
It was like a dark pink, almost
Yes.
a ruby flower.
Yes,
and it
I
was
remember now.
gigantic.
Okay, yes,
Felix.
yes. Oh man, bummer.
I know.
So sad.
Right now I have it sitting in water, and I'm going to see if I can maybe replant it. And
Like your roses. They
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it can come back. They're not as tough as roses like that.
No,
So
I
it's-
know.
Yeah.
Out of the 8 roses that the gopher ate, I got 6. I saved 6.
Oh.
Two just are totally dead. But one of them was extremely rare, so I'm really glad I was able to save it.
Good.
It just doesn't stop, does it? At
Gophers, man, just an endless battle.
Bagnasco Estates.
Yeah.
It's always something.
I mean, that's got to be so challenging, so frustrating to deal with that. I mean,
Every day it's right.
yeah, and I mean, we all have our own battles. I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, in my landscape, I don't have too much. But I mean, people live where they have deer. They have all kinds of creatures and critters that will just.
Do you have gophers on your property or no?
I don't have any gophers. No.
I wonder
I've
why.
got squirrels.
Why
I've
don't
got
you have-
rabbits.
You
Why
have
don't
ground
you have
squirrels.
gophers?
I don't know.
Don't you
I
do you have
really
a
don't
canyon?
know.
Is there a canyon like?
Right behind me. Yeah,
Behind you, yeah,
right on
so
a
you-
canyon.
But that's not probably good
But-
land for gophers to be digging. It's probably hard, right? I imagine.
I don't know. I mean, I used to have a real big problem with rabbits, and I still have a pretty good problem with rabbits. But my dogs, I think, are pretty on top of keeping them out of the yard, so it's not as bad as it used to be. I can't. We were back in England at that one garden, and this woman had to fully enclose her vegetable garden into like a covered thing because of the birds. Remember,
Right.
The birds would just come in there and just pick everything to death. And she's like, "This is the only way I can have plants." Was basically grow them in an atrium.
Yeah.
And this was just a backyard. This wasn't like some botanical garden. This wasn't like some park, and whatever. This was just, in order for me to have a vegetable garden, I have to plant in an atrium. I mean, so challenging.
Veronica elaborated on the area she was thinking of putting a small tree. She said it's about 4 foot away from a brick wall.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to damage the wall, so she was thinking a small flowering tree. So I think
Great.
a deciduous magnolia would be fine.
It'd be spectacular.
What about maybe even redbuds? Like, what about a weeping redbud?
That'd be absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. What are they called? Something fountain?
I don't remember.
Ruby fountains?
What's funny is I just planted 2 of those this week in that house in Murrieta. I was talking about. They planted 2 weeping ones and then 1 just a regular forest pansy.
Hey, next time you're there, check out the roses. They've got beautiful roses on that property.
They
from what
do.
I hear.
They're doing something right.
Now, with the different varieties, different colors and stuff?
Everyone was different. Massive bushes. I mean, I hate to say it, but they had to be using like systemic something because these plants
didn't look real.
They looked fake. They did.
Since you mentioned that, we were talking. I was mentioning how I never spray anything actually, but I said that I had 1,500 roses and no aphids anywhere on my property. But I think because I've been fertilizing and new growth is coming out, I had, for me, what was an explosion of aphids 2 weeks ago. And that meant that there was maybe a dozen roses that had aphids, but they were pretty thick where they were. Oh. And almost to the point where I thought, should I go through and rub them off, or what should I do?
The little new growth is almost drooping over from the weight.
They were mainly on the flower buds.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, yesterday I was out there looking at them, and while there were still aphids around, not as thick though, and I saw a lot of ladybug larvae.
Ooh.
So I think everything's going to be back in control. And then I started thinking, you're really not going to have beneficial insects in your yard unless there's something for them to eat, right?
That's the truth, right? That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
They tell people, when they buy ladybugs. So number one, you hit on a great point that people need to know is that the ladybug larvae, which are almost like a red and black little crawling bug.
It looks like something that's bad.
Yeah, it looks like something you want to get rid of.
Right. Yeah.
Are more voracious eaters.
A lot more.
Than the actual adult ladybug. Right. So those are even more beneficial to have in your landscape.
As long as you have something for them to eat and a reason to be there.
But what I was going to say was a lot of people...
A teenager's going to eat a lot more
than an adult.
Yeah, especially an adult lady.
We got to take a break.
Okay, we'll keep talking
2 more segments. Our next segment's one of our longer segments. Plenty of time for Facebook Live questions, comments. Back after these messages, this is Garden America, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. All right, we continue. This is one of our longer segments. Take advantage, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Ladybugs. That's how we left our last segment.
So just voracious. The correct way, because it's real popular right now. You go into the garden center, you see them for able to buy, which, by the way, still no decollete snails.
I need those.
I know. But so the correct way to release them, I'll tell you the correct way, and it's not the rule, but it is the most probable way to keep them in your yard. Is number one is that you, like John said, you have to have a problem. You have to have aphids. You have to have something for them to eat. Right. You can't just release ladybugs.
They'll go elsewhere.
They will fly away. They got to go eat somewhere, right?
So you're thinking of marketing ladybugs the way they do with a package of aphids too?
Yeah,
to put on your
why
plants?
not? Right?
Get the aphids at the same time.
But no, so you have to have bugs for them to eat. Number one. So don't just buy ladybugs and just be like, oh, I'm going to release them in my yard if you don't have a problem. Number two is they tell you also that they want the area to be kind of damp because, again, food and water. So you don't want them to have to travel too far. So it's nice if you water or irrigate the area before you release too, just so there's that. And they don't need a fountain. They just need dew or some like a heavy mist is all they really need.
Don't want to release them in a cactus garden.
No. And then the last thing too is that if you release them in the evening, at nighttime, it's one of those things. Hopefully they'll wake up in the morning, they'll find water, they'll find food, and then they just stay.
Yeah. If you release them in the day, they're just going to take off.
They're just going to take off.
Yeah, like
right away.
Yeah. We've been cooped up. Let's leave.
So they got to have food, they got to have water, and if you release them at night, the goal is that when they wake up in the morning, they have everything they have.
They're going to want to go right to bed.
Yeah. They'll just hang out.
You're waking up yawning, looking around for something to eat.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do.
Tanya in San Jose says that she last fall she watched a praying mantis lay 2 egg cases.
Oh, wow.
And she wants to know, when are the little ones going to come out? She keeps checking every day.
Tell her to keep praying.
So,
well, we're further south, so we're what, maybe, would you say 2 to 3 weeks ahead of San Jose?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I just saw some baby praying mantis.
Yeah. But
So I would say for Tanya, maybe 2 to 3 weeks away, depending on the weather, right?
But I will also say the hard thing about praying mantis egg casings is that you have to check it every day. Meaning there's nothing.
Oh yeah, if you miss one day, they're out and gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And the egg casing looks the same. It's not like
It
this.
doesn't change.
Yeah, it's not like a bird egg where it's like, oh, it cracked
cracks
open
open,
and
right.
something went away. This foam style egg casing that is a praying mantis egg, it doesn't change when the praying mantis release. So therefore, if you don't go out there every day and check, you'll never really see the little babies. But when you do see it, I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of these little praying mantis that are just all over the place. It's spectacular.
And they always have something to eat.
Well, they eat
They
each
eat
other.
each other.
and that is something too that people make the mistake with buying a praying mantis. They keep them in that little soup cup that they buy them in.
After they hatch?
Well, they keep them in there
Oh.
because they want to see them hatch. But if you leave them in there for a day or two, then like John said, they just eat each other. And next thing you know, there's like 4 left.
4 big ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Strongest, the fittest survive.
Yeah. Well,
And-
if she didn't mention it, Tanya says she does check every day.
Good, yeah, because but the cool thing about praying mantis, what I heard too, is that they're very territorial.
Yeah.
So like once they kind of find their areas of their garden, I hear you can kind of go back to that area and you can find the same praying mantis in that area pretty easily, which is kind of neat. I like that idea of having a pet praying mantis.
Veronica in Spring Valley says that last week, Tiger, you mentioned a fertilome product that could help for taking care of aphids and mildew.
Aphids and mildew, which I think is
We talked about spring in the evening, I think.
Was that triple action? I think triple action.
think
Or
it was.
I really like the spinosad soap, and it's not really for mildew, but it just is an all-purpose thing. But we were also talking about the rose and flower. Remember the Bayer product that's like
Yeah.
insecticide,
I think it was
fungicide.
triple action that you talked about.
But you
I think.
did mention a specific fertilome product.
I think it was triple action.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking of a number like 5.
Oh, well, there's the fungicide 5 we mentioned also.
Oh, that's just for.
But that's just for the fungal issues. That's like we were talking about it like the Serenade.
Oh,
It's
okay.
those Serenade replacement.
Okay, that's what I recall.
I think triple action. And did you mention spring in the evening, Tiger? Would that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Triple action is also fungicide and insecticide. Yes. So I did mention the triple action probably.
Lenore in Canyon Country says that she transplanted a tree to the ground about 2 months ago, and it looks happy. It's full of flowers, but she gets some branches that dry out, and looked at like 3 or 4.
Sporadic through the plant.
What kind of tree is it?
She just didn't say it
No.
right. She just said
No,
a tree.
She just said a tree.
A tree.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens just, as the tree's adjusting to its new location and growing area. Some trees self-prune themselves, right? Every branch that comes out on a tree doesn't stay there forever.
Yeah.
You will lose a few as the tree tries to develop a scaffold and a skeleton that it's going to keep as its major structure, as parts of its major structure.
And then the other thing too is people don't realize like each branch, each part of the tree is also tied to a part of the actual root system.
Yeah.
You
She
know,
said
so
it was a lime tree.
So if you damage a part of a root system when transplanting or something, the whole tree might be fine.
Yeah.
But that one branch that you like cut off that root to plant it that is affected by it now. And John comes from a family of arborists where he's probably seen that, where it's like, people will try to be like, oh, can you just cut this one root for me? Right. Like, because it's like a sidewalk or something.
It sounds like a central nervous system.
Yeah.
in a human to some
they're like,
degree.
yeah, I can cut that, but you might see a whole branch just go away now.
Right.
Or if the wind comes from the other direction, it might blow the tree
Might blow
over.
the tree over.
Yeah. A lot of people forget that besides feeding a tree, a huge function of a root system is to anchor the tree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I mean, I think like what you said, John, it's probably just a little bit transplant shock, or like you're saying, like scaffolding, like structure. But if she did, when planting it, like take it out of a pot and maybe, broke some roots, that might have caused it as well.
So it's not going to hurt on a lime tree to just cut those branches out.
And I told you about my lime tree that I tried to kill multiple times and in my yard, and it's flourishing now. So they're very hardy trees.
If you take it out, that'll kill it.
If I what?
Take it out. Just remove it.
No,
Dig it up.
I tried.
You can't. Well, you can't.
Won't kill it, man. Lime trees are really.
Why don't you have a lime tree killing party? Bring people over with hatchets and poison,
pitchforks, and
like a little dance, a little ceremony around it.
Isn't there a Roundup product made for lime trees?
Just for lime trees?
Just for lime, right?
Exactly. Because nothing else will kill it. Well, that is a funny thing. People think, these herbicides, like Roundup, kill everything.
They don't.
Well, they don't. And, and then you got nutgrass, which you could pour like bleach and diesel fuel and everything on it. You have to have that specific product for nutgrass killer. And
Call that selective, right?
Yeah.
Selective.
Roundup kills nutgrass, doesn't it? What?
Yeah, it controls it.
Really?
Yeah.
The old Roundup or the new Roundup?
No, the old Roundup.
The old Roundup didn't work.
Yeah.
Even at the heavier dilution.
Even at, I'm sure undiluted, like just.
Not that I'm questioning.
Yeah.
You, but
it doesn't kill it.
And you know
it doesn't
what?
kill it contained.
And you know what though? I'm speaking from experience.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had much of a problem with nutgrass.
No?
No.
You're lucky.
I told you
there's nothing worse than getting nutgrass in a flower bed.
I had a customer come in when I was working in the garden centers. A customer come in and brought in some nutgrass, and he wanted to know what to do to control it. And he says, "What is this, and how do I get rid of it?"
You said move.
I go, "Well, it's nutgrass, and it's hard to control." He goes, "Well, what is it?" It's nutgrass. And I said that like 3 times, and finally he screams at me, "I know it's not grass. What is it?"
Hey, we got to take a break on that note. Yeah, it's driving me nuts. That's what it is. Okay, final segment coming up next on Garden America. All righty. This is one of the shorter segments, too. This is our epilogue.
It is.
Final segment.
Wow. Final countdown.
And did you want to mention next week, we are going to be going full steam May into June. So we're going to take a little break next week.
Yep.
Take the week off and prepare, because then it's nonstop.
Yeah.
Well, you
it's
wanted
a
to
marathon.
regroup.
Yeah.
Have to regroup.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
I can understand.
We'll still have our meetings.
Yeah,
but-
you saw the impact of our pre-production meetings.
Oh,
that,
what a way!
Just
got us off to a fantastic start.
Yeah. So why not really prepare?
Really prepare. Yes. So there we go.
Continuing with our talk from last segment, Carla says that she's had to move her mandarin out of the ground and into its pot.
Okay.
And she had to cut some of the big roots.
Yeah.
So again, to compensate for the root cutting, Carla also cut out some of the branches.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I'm not sure of, Tiger, and maybe you know better, I always cut things back if I transplant them, so there's less room for transpiration, so the tree's not going to dry out. But I always used to cut the tops of the trees back, and I think that the tips of the trees are where the auxins that promote root growth are. So if you cut off all those, is it going to take a while for the tree to start producing its rooting hormones again?
So, that is very true, where it's that balance of what you cut out and what you leave, because there are very important parts of the tree that actually, need to be there to produce, all the energy and growth and absorb light and things like that. And so usually what I've been told to do is kind of like your classic pruning techniques. So number one, remove any dead growth or crossing branches when you do it, because those should just go anyways, no matter what you do. And then not remove the top growth, but remove some of the older, like inner growth, because also sometimes that's not doing the work, like you mentioned, John, for the plant anymore. It's just older there, and it's not doing the brunt of the work for the tree.
Mm-hmm.
That new growth that is actually doing the brunt of the work. I mean, they said something like, when you have like an old leaf on a tree, it might only be doing 10 to 15% of, the whole transpiration, chlorophyll, all of that kind of stuff for the tree, where the new growth is doing 75% of the actual work. So you want to leave that because that's where the tree is now getting its, light from, its energy, its air, and all of that. So, yeah, I would just recommend doing the old growth and inner growth when you're doing that pruning back. And then if you have to remove roots when transplanting or putting into a pot, the HB 101 is super important, I think. Also any kind of good like little fertilizer when you're doing that is just going to help, because it just helps minimize some of that shock that happens. So
B1 does nothing. So
B1 does nothing.
If you're putting in B1, don't think you're doing anything.
Yeah.
Just prior to letting people know we're not going to be here next week, there was a post from Tanya in San Jose, and she said, I may miss the show next week.
Oh, we planned around Tanya's schedule.
I'm going to be at the Cactus and Succulent Society of America's convention in San Diego.
Yeah.
And she's hoping to visit Mission Hills Nursery while she's down there.
Well, we hope you do and enjoy your visit.
Yeah. Let Tiger know what time he'll buy you breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot me a message, Tanya. We'll meet up.
A meet and greet at Mission Hills Nursery.
Yeah.
Carla is supporting you, Tiger.
All right.
She said, nut grass, nothing kills it. She has a whole section of her yard. They just mow it like grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says, not a bad lawn, actually, but it's impossible to keep from spreading.
Yeah. And like I say, like the worst situation for it is in a perennial or like a flower bed.
Yeah.
Because
You can't get it in
you
and
can't
amongst
get in there.
everything. You can't get in there. Yeah.
In a lawn, it's actually not bad. Like you just mow it, like she said.
But doesn't it grow faster than the lawn?
It grows way faster than the lawn. But I mean, it's just green. It's growing.
Now, I'm
it's
sure
not
there's been
bad.
studies
but it's
done.
a lighter green.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been studies done. Like, first of all, why does it grow so fast?
Yeah.
And why is it so tenacious? You can't get rid of it. What is it about
Nodules.
nutgrass? What's that?
Nodules.
Nodules, huh?
The nuts.
It's all about nodules.
Called nutgrass because there's these little tiny nutty nodules in the soil, and if you go to pull it up, those break off and start new plants.
Yep.
Wow.
And the foliage is really glossy green and very strappy, and so it's just a hardy plant,
Well, what about the old product that was on the market called Nutgrass Annihilator?
That works.
Remember that?
That works?
It works. Yeah.
Does Fertilome have a product for that?
Yep, they do.
What's theirs called?
Nutgrass Killer.
Nutgrass Killer.
Yeah. There's Sedge Hammer, Nutgrass Annihilator.
Sedge Hammer. That's a good name.
Not to be confused with Sledgehammer.
Yeah, and then the Nutgrass, I think it's called like Nutgrass Killer or Nutgrass Controller from Fertilome. But they're all the same chemical. I can't remember what it is, but it's proven. The nice thing about it is a lot of those products for nutgrass, they only kill nutgrass too.
My next question was, if you do have it in your plants and your flower beds, you could spray everything and it would just kill the nutgrass.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Okay.
A lot of them do. So which does make it nice in that way that it takes a very specific chemical to kill it. So I know for lawns they have a lot of products that kill the nutgrass and not the lawn.
Okay, we have 1 minute. 1 minute and counting.
Oh, gee. Well, just quickly, Rick had wanted to know if we have any of the native oak trees down here that he used to have when he was in the San Gabriel Valley.
What do we have? Coast live oak?
Yeah.
And
not as many trees as up in that area,
no,
right?
I don't think so. I don't think we have nearly as many up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Coast
Well,
Live
guys,
Oak.
I guess that's it. Now, once
right.
again, because Tanya's not going to be at home next weekend, she's coming to San
Yeah.
Diego. We're going to take the day off just for her. But no, seriously, then we're back with a marathon just about every weekend, May into June. Lots of guests lined up, so it'll be kind of a prelude to summer. Right?
Exactly.
That's what we'll call it.
It's May is our month.
May is our
Prelude
month,
to Summer sounds like a composition,
doesn't it?
musical composition.
It does, doesn't it? Hey, for the entire crew, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. Thank you to Stephanie, Biz Talk Radio. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Easter. Have a good week, and we'll do it again in 2 weeks right here on Garden America. Be safe.